This just proved the Vikings are on the verge of something huge in every sense of the phrase, with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's recent culture comments and how that's reflected in one of Minnesota's unsung talents on the team, who also made a surprise media appearance that has fans fired up. We're going to break down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest, but first, if you're a part of the 87.5% of viewers who aren't yet subscribed yet and you want to stay up to date on all things Vikings, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates as they drop. It's going to be a very busy week before week one. And with that, let's hop straight into the first topic of the day, which is Kwesi's culture. So we know that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell had their media availability, and some other players did as well, that we're going to get into as well in this video and later videos. But one of the things that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah talked about and that was brought up by a reporter was meritocracy and how that impacts culture. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah spoke on that, saying that we talk about a culture built on competitiveness, growth, mindset, all those different things. So to really have a true meritocracy where people can come in and have a chance to make an impact and make this team, that's just an embodiment and a signal of that. So that's always going to be our pitch. You can come in here and you can have a chance. It's a true meritocracy, and the Vikings will be that as long as we're here. When I heard that, it just made me so happy that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell are our coach and GM, because these two are an absolute powerhouse tandem that you can tell they work so close with each other and try to make it a true partnership that we haven't seen really with a coach and a GM in quite some time. And it's hard to really think about one in recent memory where you can see this kind of connection between a coach and the GM, where they're almost working in perfect tandem with each other, going through all the moves that they want to do as a group and a collective. And it seems like a really full team effort with the Vikings organization and this staff, something that you can't really see in a lot of other teams, where Kevin O'Connell is almost like a co-GM basically on this team, where we haven't really seen that since Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Robert Kraft, where they were having their little tandem there, and then Bill Belichick obviously became the GM, and then he was just 2-1 basically. But within that, with Minnesota having this tandem of Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, is perfect for these players, it's perfect for their development, and having that meritocracy as well is what's led to them having Max Brosmer on the team, Joe Huber, and having these guys have chances where it didn't matter where you were drafted, whether it's the first round, the fourth round, the fifth round, undrafted, you're going to have the same shot that everybody else has, and you absolutely love to see that. And that is why Max Brosmer made that 53-man roster, and that is why we are going to touch on him as our second topic of the day, which is that Max Brosmer speaks. So in a surprise appearance too, where a lot of the quarterbacks spoke today, Carson Wentz spoke, Max Brosmer, JJ McCarthy didn't, Adam Thielen did though, so we're going to hop into Carson Wentz and Adam Thielen in later videos. But staying on Max Brosmer within this, one of the things that was the first thing that was asked was about his film prep and how much film he's just been watching. And he talked about that, saying that I haven't been physically as gifted as some people in this profession. And I think when you're on the shorter end of that stick, you have to really outwork people mentally, where he talked about watching film, being in the room and just absorbing as much knowledge as he could, even though he knew he wasn't going to be playing as QB1 for this team because that's JJ McCarthy's job. But it's all about serving the room. You have to know your superpower, and I pride myself on really being mentally capable of understanding what's going on and having a good idea of what the game plan is. And I just want to be able to help my room out as best as possible. So this is a guy who knows his role on the team. He knows he's not the starting quarterback, but he knows that if he's given an opportunity, he's going to do whatever it takes to be prepared and to really shine in that moment, so that he puts great footage on tape. They talked about how with playing with the practice squad and practice reps, he went back to a Tom Brady quote where you got to treat those 2 to 3 practice reps as if you're in a week NFL regular season week 3 game against Chicago or something like that, or treat it like it's your Super Bowl rep and you're trying to get that game winning touchdown. You have to treat it as if it is a real game situation and not just a practice rep where you're just trying to lollygag your way through the practice. No, you treat it as if you have a scout looking at you like you're back in college and everything is on the line. And that's the mentality that Max Brosmer has, and that is why Minnesota brought him in here. They know the talent they were getting in this kid by being so close to the University of Minnesota, seeing him so closely for the past couple of years, which Kevin O'Connell did touch on that we're going to get to in a second. But overall, just Max Brosmer is embodying everything you want, not only in a backup quarterback, but just in a quarterback in general. With some of the things he was saying, like his sense of belonging, that it was gradual, there was ups and downs, little critiques every single day, and I think our staff has done an amazing job of building you up, also showing you where you can be better. And it's all just amazing stuff here from Brosmer, where he talks about improvement as well, saying they do such a good job of holding each other accountable. We're not a ton of time to think that, oh, I made it. You can never have that mindset, especially in the NFL, especially here with the Vikings. There's some good things you can build upon, but there's always some stuff you can critique yourself on and your teammates, and ultimately want to be championship worthy every single day. This is something that you would hear from a franchise quarterback. And this is a guy who's probably going to be QB3 on this team. And he has that mentality of a starting quarterback. It's all about mentality. Yes, he could be a QB3 on the depth chart. But if he has that mentality going forward for his career, he's not going to think of himself as a QB3. He's going to play with that chip on his shoulder. He's going to feel like he belongs in the NFL. And he absolutely does. With the way that he played in the preseason, he played his ass off. Did it always result in a score? No, but he was able to do stuff on the field that led to him making the 53-man roster. So obviously he's good enough. Most of the guys that are in the league, all of them are good enough. Everyone is good enough. But with Max Brosmer, this is a guy that if Minnesota is not careful and he just plays his ass off and other teams see it, they could try and poach him from us. Or this is a guy that Minnesota molds into a absolute stud for a backup in the future in McCarthy, where we have a 2 quarterback tandem that could really be reliable in any given situation. Is he on the level of talent of JJ McCarthy? No, he's still going to have a long way to go to do that. But I feel really confident if Carson Wentz, obviously, if he leaves in the next couple of years, only here for 1 or 2 years, if we have to go with Max Brosmer as QB2 within 1 to 2 or 3 years, I'm happy with that. I think that's very good QB3 to have or QB2 to have in those situations if JJ McCarthy isn't ready to go, because he's going to be young, be in this offense already, and have similar kind of playing traits to quarterbacks that Kevin O'Connell likes. And that's why he brought him in here. And Kevin O'Connell also spoke on Max Brosmer, saying that we had the benefit of seeing Max and getting to know him throughout the process that started 2 seasons ago, with the way he had the ability to throw at the previous year's Go for Pro Day, and then to get to see him again after getting to watch him play. And we have some great relationships with PJ Fleck and his staff. So you learn a lot about the makeup of the player, but from day one, it was obvious his capacity mentally. And this is something that even Brosmer was touching on, being ready mentally. And all these things, with Kevin O'Connell talking about what he sees in Brosmer, with Kwesi's comments about the culture, it goes to show that what Minnesota is trying to do here is that even if guys aren't drafted, we're going to show you that, hey, we're going to bring you in, we're going to nurture you, we're going to get your development as far along as we can, or as far as you're able to push it. And then we're going to go from there and make sure that you are an absolute stud in this league. And that's why this is huge for the Vikings, because they're doing something that a lot of teams aren't, where a lot of undrafted guys, especially Minnesota Golden Gophers, where Max Brosmer is one of the very few Golden Gophers to make a final NFL roster. This is something big for future players coming up and for future Vikings that are coming into this organization. But staying with Brosmer as well, with Kevin O'Connell's comments, saying he took very quickly how to apply some of the techniques and fundamentals that we're training and coaching to productive reps in a very short amount of time. Max had quite a bit of snaps in the preseason. It wasn't always perfect, wasn't always clean around him, but he found a way to move the team. He found a way to make a throw. And those things are principles at the position that we deem pretty positive. At the same time, Max is one of the hardest working young guys I've been around. So very high praise from Kevin O'Connell, high praise from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah on these undrafted guys, and just some other guys that just were able to make the team that on other teams they might not have given that fair share of shots. With Max Brosmer, he got so many looks in the preseason that we look at some other teams, namely the Cleveland Browns, where they didn't give as many opportunities to their wide array of quarterbacks that are going to be staying with the team. That is why Minnesota gave Max Brosmer those opportunities. They gave him way more opportunities than Brett Rypien and Sam Howell, because they knew that Brett Rypien and Sam Howell were not going to be around much longer. So what did they do? They gave the opportunities to the guy they knew was going to be there. Something Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns could probably take a note of with Shedeur Sanders, and how they handled that situation by putting Tyler Huntley in a 2-minute drive when you knew he wasn't going to be on the team anyways. That's a whole other separate issue for a whole other separate team. But just looking at the contrasting it with the Vikings and how they handled it versus a team like Cleveland Browns or some other teams around the NFL where they didn't give the right backups the right amount of opportunities, Minnesota goes to prove why we are the best organization in the NFL as far as team culture and just building team chemistry and morale and believing in these players. Meritocracy, it was the word of the day. It's the word of this episode. It's the word that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was hammering home to the reporters, and that is what stuck with me, honestly, the most out of this entire press conference, because what Kwesi said there, how the meritocracy, bringing guys in, goes to show that, like I said, young guys, doesn't matter if you were drafted in the first round or undrafted, you have an opportunity with the Minnesota Vikings. And that is even more so why I love having Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as our GM, why I love Kevin O'Connell as our head coach, because they both preach and believe in the same thing that they practice what they preach, basically. They talk about these things, they live up to it, they deliver, whether it's something as far as going out and rebuilding the offensive line. They say they're going to do it, they went out and did it. Whether it's re-signing some players, they said they're going to do it, they went out and did it. Making sure some depth pieces are filled, they said they were going to do it, they did it. Giving guys a fair chance, they said they were going to do it, and they delivered. Everything that this management group does, they are trying their best to deliver on, and they've done it pretty much mostly in spades throughout their tenure. Now it's just a matter of getting over that final objective and getting a Lombardi trophy back into the Twin Cities for the first time ever. But what did you guys think about Kwesi's comments on the meritocracy part of it, what Brosmer was saying? What are your thoughts on Max Brosmer as our QB2 or QB3, QB3 for now, but possible QB2 of the future? What did you guys think about his mentality and where Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's mindset was at, as well as what Kevin O'Connell was saying? Let us know down in the comments below, but that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.